next speaker is Steve, who I've come to know very well, from the Walsall Housing Group, and he's head of environment there, and he will talk to us about various things, including, I hope, something mandatory that we should all do. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I've been promoted. I'm not really the head of environment at WHG. I'm the Health, Safety and Environmental Manager. And I am delighted to be here for various reasons, because 22 years ago, when I first started off in the environmental management field, it was like missionary work for the non-converted. And judging by the amount of people here today, over the last 22 years or so, the message is finally getting through. We've still got a long way to go, as we've already seen, but the message is finally getting there. And I'm also delighted to be here as well, because I was Project Environment Manager for Skanska on this project for 5 years. So I worked here when it was the old hospital, and it's just wonderful to be back here after 6 or 7 years away to see it still looking in pretty good shape. So thanks very much for having me, and I'm delighted to be part of the team, and I'm trying to bring a few of our contacts along as well. I've brought 3 people with me today. I'll introduce later on. So if we can crack on, can I drive?
Yes.
Am I allowed to drive? Okay.
Yeah.
So just people who don't know anything about WHG, we're a housing association, and we were formed in 2003, and we now own and manage around 20,000 properties in the West Midlands. The majority of the properties are in Walsall, and it's also interesting as well, going on the other talks that we've had, that not only have we got our own operations as a business, we've got 20,000 properties, and on the back of that, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that we can influence as well. The majority of our housing portfolio set is in Walsall, and we operate our own in-house repair team, which is quite unique for housing associations. We actually employ our own repairs team. So we've got about 300 operatives that work around the West Midlands, and you'll probably start seeing our vans all around Walsall now. There's probably over 200 vans floating around Walsall with WHG on the side, carrying out various activities, from home maintenance services to we do a lot of estate management as well, so you'll see our vehicles around lots of estates, keeping them clean, tidy and safe. We own 3 commercial buildings. The biggest one is right next door to Walsall College at 100 Hatherton Street, and we have 2 smaller buildings. We have a place in Leamore, which is the workplace, which I was quite interested to hear about how we can make connections with communities, because we do a lot of community engagement and courses out there and employability, so that's quite an interesting link. And we have an older office in Willenhall as well, right opposite Lidl. So we've got 3 buildings in this area as well. And like I say, we're looking at exploring new ways of doing business and serving the community too. I ended up at WHG, it was quite interesting really, because I ended up at WHG in 2012 on the back of working here, because one of the directors at WHG was on the board of the Walsall Education Business Partnership, and also a board member at Walsall College. And we used to work quite closely with the schools in Walsall on sustainability issues, and I used to set up quite a few exchanges with colleagues, students from WHG coming here, and then us going back the other way. So this project became quite a catalyst for local engagement. And when I was losing my job where I was working at before, I sent my CV out to everybody, and WHG invited me in for a chat and said, in our corporate plan, we want to get the environmental standard, ISO 14001. Are you interested in helping us? And I sort of jumped at the chance, because I was about to become a dad as well. So I was looking for a job and close to home. So we now, 6 years later, I was only there for 3 months, I've been there for 6 years, have an environmental policy, and we've been accredited as the international standard for environmental management, ISO 14001, which if any of you businesses in the room have tried to achieve it, it's quite a tough standard to get, and it's quite a tough standard to maintain as well. And I'll just take you on a little journey through that, and how it can possibly complement the work that we're doing at WHG and the other businesses, and some of the small things that we've done as well. So just a quick lesson on ISO 14001. What is it? Operationally, it's about identifying activities, products and services that we control or influence that have the potential to interact on the environment, either in a negative way or hopefully in a positive way as well. And these are some of the issues that we have to contend with on a daily basis. Fly tipping is ripe around WHG's estates. But obviously operationally we use chemicals, materials, all kinds of things that have potential. Once they're in use, they can impact on humans. When we dispose of them, they impact on the environment through waste or through emissions or through whatever source. We use a lot of energy as well in our buildings, in our customers' homes, and we're always looking at striving at ways to improve energy efficiency, improve maintenance, improve the life cycle of everything that we do. So that's a quick introduction, but what the standard requires us to do is identify activities, products and services that have any potential to impact on the environment. And what it means in the day job really is that as a business, legal compliance is not an option. For every business in the whole of the UK, legal compliance is not an option, but the standard sort of puts a massive emphasis on legal compliance. But also it has a big influence on continual improvement, and we can't do continual improvement without people's ideas. So colleagues' ideas, our suppliers' ideas, you know, business plans, you know, it's all about continual improvement. So environmental management is also good business sense. And we're always looking at ways to improve and make savings, improve efficiencies and improve the bottom line. And for, you know, campaigns that we have in our place now, we have, you can report an environmental incident off your tablet and your phone. We have some superb waste management, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. And even looking at simple campaigns for, you know, acting on people's behaviour, taking ownership of environmental issues. So the ISO 14001 standard changed in 2015, and it changed in quite an interesting way, and this reflects on what we've been talking about the global impacts of plastic and all the other environmental impacts we've been talking about as well. The standard changed quite significantly, and it put in place a more sustainable look at how businesses manage their environmental issues. And it's been a massive learning journey, but also a challenge as well to use ISO 14001 to influence change. When I've worked at WHG, we have something called a corporate plan. In our corporate plan, it's written by the chief exec and all his team, how he's going to change the business, how we're going to do things for a 10-year plan. And we managed to get in there this strap line. WHG is an environmentally aware business caring about the impact we make. The comms team tried to chuck it out. I chucked it back in again, and it's there, and it's ingrained, and it's part of the values. But we use the 14001 standard really to really influence that strap line that's in our corporate plan. Now, the 14001 standard, I've just mentioned about looking at the business's operations, what it controls and influences, but the new standard requires businesses to take a big look at the organisation and its context. So if you look at the hospital in its context, it influences all over the place, and so does WHG, because we don't just operate, we bring in materials, we develop waste, we use energy, we export energy, we have 20,000 customers, and how do we manage that? How do we take a look at that? So what we needed to do was identify our environmental responsibilities, and we needed to understand the conceptual issues around this. So we did quite a big exercise really to look at our internal and external issues that affect the business. Internal issues, I'll talk about them a little bit. External issues, I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. But what positive and negative influence there is, and what's relevant to the organisation and its context. So one of the first exercises I did was quite intense. I just started looking at government policy, local policy, housing policy, good practice, and drew a map of how it affected WHG from its organisation and its context. And I'm sure the NHS has got lots of that kind of documentation in it as well. So it required us to be a legally compliant business, protect and enhance the environment, and adapt to policy and strategy, and that's the key really, that's the organisation's content. So one of the examples I've pulled out there is the West Midlands strategic transport plans, and a lot of our vehicles are now impacted on the clean air zones going into Birmingham and out of Birmingham, and if the clean air zones come into Walsall or into Sandwell or into Wolverhampton, or half the M6 is captured by it, it has a massive impact on us. So we're looking strategically, not 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, how are these policy changes going to impact on our business? We need to be able to adapt to economic conditions, and it's always in the news, isn't it? Economic conditions, whether it's Brexit or global crisis in China, it all has an impact on us because we have to get our materials in place, we need to source them, we need to get them at a good price. and looking at sustainable development and consumption as well. And we've had a good old look at those. Now, carried out an analysis. Don't look at it into too much detail, but as a business, we looked at how do all these issues really impact on our operations, not just today, but in the future, because we're also building houses, believe it or not. We're building brand new houses, and the company wants to expand from 20,000 houses to 30,000 houses by the year 2024. So all of those conceptual issues impact on WHG. Air emissions, climate change, affordable energy consumption, and production, land resources, water resources. So we've done a risk assessment and picked out what are the big ones that we need to work on. So we defined the context of the organisation, and we picked on these major players. As a business, air quality is massive for us because we operate a fleet of vehicles. We also have colleagues who drive around in their own cars. Now, anybody who drives around in an old car and has to go into Birmingham, we're going to have to pay the charge. So we've got to think about that as a business. Is there a more sustainable way of getting around? Climate change and adaptation. So in this, I think it was about March 2018, that we had mega floods in Walsall, and it took out a load of our properties. So these incidents aren't just happening once every 100 years. They seem to happen every year and more often. And also the plastic blocks the drains. So the amount of times our guys and the Severn Trent guys are pulling plastic out the drains and pulling nappies out the drains, and it all backfills into customers' properties. There's a good message that we can use there about the adaptation to climate change. We're looking at providing clean and affordable energy to our customers. And then back to where here really is responsible consumption and production, because what we've already said, what comes in has to go out again. Looking at responsible use of land, again, where are we going to site the properties? What about the properties we've already got? Responsible use of water resources, and I'm delighted that Safe Staff's Water have joined us today as well, and we've already done quite a bit of work with them to encourage our customers to use water more efficiently, encourage them to use water efficiently, and because water has a lot of uses, because you have to heat it, you have to get rid of it, you have to, and we've done schemes with them to put meters in place, put water butts in people's gardens, and ensure that all our new properties are meeting the best requirements for water. It's not always perfect, but we're getting there. And then we have to look at the needs of the interested parties as well, because we house 20,000 people, over 20,000 people, and what are their needs as well? So we've put together a strategy, and it got signed off by our executive just before Christmas, and I've been working on this for 2 years. So we're trying to make all this stuff mainstream now, and so we've got our top level objectives and some performance measures around those themes I've just mentioned. So everything that we do, we want to reflect on this as an objective. But I thought I'd just reflect really on the bottom-up stuff that you can do as well, and what we've tried to do as an organisation. And we're not perfect in any way. However, we've made a good start. And some of the things that we have done at WHG is we've already removed the desks. And in our offices now, colleagues have to get up and put the stuff in the right bin. We segregate waste across the organisation, whether it's in the offices or operationally. We don't have general waste bins, it's recycling bins, and we have the one tiny bin for any compostable waste like tea bags and sandwiches. We have special waste streams, we have those kind of things as well. First thing I did when I went there was we were spending a fortune on confidential waste. We're spending a fortune on confidential waste, and I was doing audits on the bins, and I was finding Argos catalogues and Express and Stars and Builders Waste and all sorts, and we were paying for the ton, so we locked it all down. And we saved a fortune on it, and we only have one collection a month instead of 4. Take-back schemes for IT. I got rid of all the paper towels out the toilets. We use the lovely Dyson hand dryers, and so it's less work for the cleaners, less waste to clean up. No plastic plates for buffets. We have paper plates, trays, washable mugs, and we've got compostable cups. And this is really a message to every business in the room, really. Using the correct bins makes sense, financial sense. And we have our waste partners in the room as well, Reconomy, who work quite closely with us at WHG. And the landfill tax is nearly £90 a tonne now, so anything you can keep out that landfill is win-win for every business. In the office, like I said, got rid of the paper towels, use the hand dryers, bringing in the reusable, all the buffets we have, for example. We don't want the plastic trays. We have them in paper now. Everyone has to get off the chair and put the waste in the bin, no paper bins, and we lock down the confidential waste. We're doing quite a lot of other things as well, but every business in the room can do this. You know, it's bottom up, it's good stuff, it gets people engaged. So really, we're looking at some other message from operations as well. Measure twice, cut once. Take stock, don't over order. We're always ordering stuff just in case rather than just in time. And we've got our logistics partner and stores partner with us today as well, Grafton's, who are trying to help us get away from that kind of attitude about, because you end up all in the skip it eventually. We want suppliers not to have so much packaging, and segregating waste makes sense. Our waste, if we mix it all together, costs us £140 a tonne. If we don't, and we segregate it out, timber, plastics, plasterboards, it costs us about £30 a tonne. So it's a no-brainer for us. And we've got the fantastic performance indicators. Instead of it's great to know what we're not sending to landfill, but it's also the cost of our waste. And this cost per tonne indicator that's produced through economy is a real sure sign that our waste is getting better and better. We've still got a long way to go, but the cost per tonne is the measure of performance, not how much you send to landfill. That's the key, because you're getting more efficient, you're not producing as much of it. Training and awareness. Everybody at WHG has to do online training on environmental issues. We do specific training courses as well on waste, environment, spillages, energy management, and we monitor our performance through the ISO 14001 standard. So some examples of our operations, some new products that Grafton's have brought in, support we've had with training from Reconomy, training our guys to use the right bins, and it's having a big impact on the waste hierarchy as well. Positive impact. And one thing I challenge every business in the room to do as well is look at the true cost of your skips, look in your bins, how much is it costing you, how much material in there that you've over-ordered, how much material in there have you food damaged, have a look at what's going in, think about where it's come from, get your calculator out and work out the true cost of waste. It'll cost, you'll look at a skip that's cost you £150, cost you £1,000, nearly there. I did actually work I worked at Royal Derby Hospital for quite a while for the facilities management company there. And one of my roles was to engage with the NHS, and I've just got some costs of how much the waste used to cost around the hospital. And the clinical waste was top of the pile, £650 a tonne. But when we used to audit the waste, we used to find everything in its dog in the clinical waste bins, even builders' waste. So just if you monitor and measure, you can improve. The recycling bins, £19 a bag, 19p a bag. The mixed up stuff, 42p a bag. This is based on 2011 prices because I haven't worked there for 7 years, but just a bit of food for thought for everybody. And really, where can WASUP come in? Where can we work together? One thing that I think a lot of businesses are looking for support on is to evaluate the environmental performance of products and services. We've already talked about what McDonald's are up to. You know, they're doing very positive stuff in the UK, aren't they now? And having reusable this and reusable that. But every business in the countries, we're bound by this plastic packaging. We're bound by this equipment that breaks down after 2 years. You know, I think collectively, if we can work together and look at the impact of our products and services through our suppliers, you know, we can probably start making a difference at the top end as well as the bottom end. WHG's made a commitment to reduce and actually eliminate packaging, and we are aspiring to eliminate single-use plastic as well. Again, we need the support of the organisation that are supplying us as well, and obviously us as clients saying we don't want any more of this. Life cycle perspectives as well. It's consistent with the ISO standards, and again, if collaboration really on what we can stipulate in tender documents, put minimum environmental requirements into our tenders, energy specifications. We don't want this stuff because you send it to us and we have to send it away. So any of the organisations that want to collaborate to come up with some best practice, you know, I think WASUP's a brilliant catalyst for this as well. And if we could work together to provide guidelines of how to embed into good practice, procurement practice, you know, it would be wonderful. So finally, really, I just wanted to summarise what the challenges and opportunities. I think if all the businesses that are here today and the ones that we can reach out to, is to start influencing all businesses, thinking out for their operations and looking at work and how we can work collaborative together. Put life cycle sustainable procurement, and obviously businesses can show and tell from each other as well. And maybe develop our own performance indicators, quantitative, to emphasise the positive. And there's so much positive stuff going on at the bottom end. What can we, get the catalyst for all businesses in this area to improve, and even reaching out to our customers and the general public as well, and look at quality of information as well, the spirit of continual improvement. So we want to be able to walk the talk, and we need everybody. So that's my message really, is let's all keep calm, start collaborating, and if anybody wants to chat, I'll be here till about 4:30. So thanks very much for listening. Thank you.